Somewhere in Arizona, there's a retired couple paying less in yearly property tax than you just paid for a single tank of gas, and they would very much like you to keep scrolling. This is the countdown of the 11 most affordable places to retire in Arizona. The towns where a social security check actually stretches, the desert corners the glossy brochures quietly skip over. Some of these you've heard of. Most of you, if we're being honest, have not. We're talking about a copper mining town where houses cost less than a used pickup truck. A city so relentlessly sunny it holds an actual, certified world record. A retirement community older than color television that somehow still has people lining up to get in. And one place where your neighbors are far more likely to own a golf cart than an actual car. Now, you're welcome to bail before number one. But your future self, sweating through a Phoenix mortgage the size of a small yacht, will simply remember this exact moment of betrayal. Hit subscribe so the algorithm and your conscience both stop bothering you. Let's start at number 11. Before we do, one quick thing that makes this entire list work, because without it half these towns would be ordinary. Arizona is genuinely kind to retirees, and not in a cute, feel-good way. In a your money actually lasts longer way. The state does not tax your Social Security. At all. Zero, your other retirement income gets hit with a flat income tax of just 2.5%, which is one of the lowest rates in the entire country. There's no estate tax, no inheritance tax, and the property taxes are almost suspiciously gentle. The average effective rate sits around 0.4%, and the typical homeowner pays somewhere near $1,800 a year. That's the whole bill. For the entire year. And here's the kicker. If you're 65 or older and your income qualifies, Arizona will actually freeze the taxable value of your home, so the tax collector stops mailing you nasty little surprises every spring. Keep all of that in the back of your mind as we go, because it quietly makes every single town on this list even cheaper than the sticker price suggests. All right. The countdown. One more thing worth saying out loud. Arizona is now the second most popular state in the country for retirees to physically move to, right behind Florida. Tens of thousands of people over 60 pack up and relocate here every year, and they are not doing it by accident. They ran the numbers, same as we're about to, and the numbers won. So let's see the towns that keep pulling them in. Number 11. Safford. Raise your hand if you've heard of Safford. That's what I thought. Now put your hand back down, your neighbors are starting to worry about you. Safford is a small farming town tucked into the Gila Valley out in eastern Arizona, surrounded by cotton fields and framed by the enormous silhouette of Mount Graham, rising up behind it like a backdrop somebody painted. Population is around 10,000 people, which means it's the kind of place where the guy at the hardware store knows your name, your truck, your dog, and probably your business before you've finished parking. Here's why it opens the list. Homes in Safford are cheap. Genuinely cheap. Depending on which source you trust, the typical house runs anywhere from under $200,000 up into the high 270s, and the local cost of living sits comfortably below the national average. The town is wrapped in agriculture, so fresh produce is close, the grocery bills stay reasonable, and the roadside stands sell things that were in the ground that morning. There are natural hot springs nearby too, which is a genuinely lovely perk once your joints start writing you strongly worded letters in your 60s. Now the honest part, because this channel doesn't do brochures. Safford is remote. The nearest big city hospital and serious specialist care means a real drive. And if you need something fancier than a family doctor, you're getting in the car and making a day of it. The shopping is limited, the nightlife is a rumor, and the real estate market is thin enough that you may wait a while for the right house. This is a town for the retiree who wants quiet mornings, wide-open skies, dirt-cheap living, and genuinely does not care that the nearest shopping mall is more of a concept than a location. If that's you, Safford is a steal. If you start to panic without a coffee chain within 9 minutes, keep watching. We've got options for you. Safford also makes a quietly brilliant home base if you love the outdoors, because Mount Graham towers above town with pine forests and cooler air waiting just a short drive up the mountain, which is a genuine luxury when the valley floor gets warm. Number 10. Bullhead City. Picture a town sitting right on the banks of the Colorado River, staring directly across the water at a glittering wall of casinos. That's Bullhead City, and the casinos belong to Laughlin, Nevada, which is technically a different state but functionally becomes your new backyard entertainment district the day you move in. The pitch here is water and value. Homes in Bullhead City run around the mid-240,000s, and the overall cost of living lands well below the national average and noticeably cheaper than the Arizona average on top of that. For that price, you get year-round river recreation, boating, jet skis, fishing off the bank, and a short bridge away, Laughlin's buffets and slot machines whenever the itch strikes. Las Vegas is only about 90 minutes up the road, and, importantly, there's a regional medical center right in town, which already nudges it a step ahead of number 11. And now the trade-off. Because there is always a trade-off, and pretending otherwise is exactly how people end up regretting a move 6 months in. Bullhead City is one of the hottest inhabited places in the entire country during summer. We're talking triple digits that make you question your life decisions and your air conditioner's warranty at the same time. The kind of heat where the steering wheel becomes a weapon and the pavement shimmers like a mirage. If you're a snowbird who plans to spend the mild winters here and then flee north the second the sun goes nuclear, it is close to perfect. If you plan to tough out July on the riverbank like a legend, I respect it. But bring electrolytes, sunscreen, and possibly a will. One more thing in Bullhead's favor, though. Because so much of the local economy runs on the casinos and river tourism just across the water, everyday costs like dining out and entertainment tend to stay surprisingly reasonable, which is a nice bonus for a fixed income. Number 9. Yuma. Yuma holds a world record, and it is exactly the record you'd expect from a place named Yuma. It is officially the sunniest city on planet Earth. The record keepers clocked it at around 91% of all possible daylight hours actually being sunny, which works out to roughly 4,000 hours of sunshine every single year. Your vitamin D levels will be absolutely spectacular. Your electric bill, however, will read like a horror novel. Down in Arizona's far southwest corner, right where the state kisses both California and Mexico, Yuma is a genuine full-size city of about 100,000 people, with homes averaging around $253,000 and a cost of living that lands a few percent under the national number. It is a legendary snowbird destination. The population noticeably swells every winter as retirees roll in with their RVs, their folding chairs, and their extremely sensible, wide-brimmed hats. And there's a real working economy here too, believe it or not. Those endless emerald green fields you'll drive past on the way in grow a genuinely enormous share of the leafy greens America eats all winter long. So that sad little desk salad you had back in February? There is a very real chance it started its life right here in the Yuma dirt. The honest column, as always. It is blisteringly hot in summer, the crime rate runs a touch above the national average, and you'll absolutely want to budget for the air conditioning like it's a car payment. But for winters full of dependable sunshine, a walkable enough historic downtown, and a genuinely affordable place to hang your hat, Yuma more than earns its spot. And for the record, the winters here are the whole reason snowbirds are obsessed. Picture clear blue skies, 70 degrees, and a light jacket in January, while the rest of the country digs its car out of the snow. That contrast alone sells a lot of Yuma real estate. And hey, if you're finding this even remotely useful so far, do me one tiny favor and smash that like button. It tells the algorithm to shove this video in front of more people who are quietly, desperately plotting their escape from a mortgage, and honestly, that's basically a public service. You'd be a hero. Onward. Number 8. Kingman. Kingman is a Route 66 town, and it wears that history proudly right on its sleeve. Vintage neon signs buzzing at dusk, classic chrome diners, That whole nostalgic old highway feeling where you half expect a cherry red convertible from 1955 to come rolling past with the top down. It's the county seat of Mojave County, home to about 34,000 people, and here's its quiet secret weapon over the river cities we just talked about. Elevation. Kingman sits up around 3,300 feet, and that altitude knocks a solid 8 to 10 degrees off the summer compared to Bullhead City baking down on the river. July still gets hot, make no mistake, but it's the difference between merely uncomfortable and openly, personally hostile. Homes here run in the neighborhood of $260,000, the cost of living hugs the national average, and you are positioned like an absolute champion for road trips. The Grand Canyon, Lake Mead, and the neon glow of Las Vegas are all within a comfortable few hours' drive, which makes weekend adventures embarrassingly easy. Now the catch, and pay attention to this next detail carefully because it explains a lot about small-town Arizona in general. Specialty healthcare in Kingman is limited, so for anything complicated you may find yourself driving to Las Vegas or Phoenix to see the right doctor. And there are some real long-term questions hanging over the local water supply, which is the kind of thing that's very easy to ignore during a sunny weekend tour and much, much harder to ignore a decade into living there. Go in with your eyes open and your expectations calibrated, and Kingman is a charming, affordable, slightly cooler place to plant yourself. And for the classic car and road trip crowd, Kingman is genuinely a little slice of heaven, sitting at the crossroads of some of the most famous stretches of highway in America, with mountains on nearly every horizon. Number 7. Sierra Vista. Now we start climbing, and this is where things get genuinely interesting. Sierra Vista sits at about 4,600 feet in the high desert of southeastern Arizona, cradled right at the base of the Huachuca Mountains. And that elevation buys you something rare and precious in this state. Actual seasons. Summers here are meaningfully, noticeably milder than down on the desert floor, and you get a real, gentle four-season rhythm instead of Arizona's usual two-item menu of hot and the surface of the sun. The town has about 45,000 people and is anchored by Fort Huachuca, a longtime U.S. Army post that serves as the area's economic backbone and, crucially, helps keep healthcare access solid, which for a town this size is a genuine gift you should not take for granted. Homes run around $260,000, and the cost of living lands a bit below the national average. And nature lovers? Lean in for this one. Sierra Vista sits right next to Ramsey Canyon Preserve, a spot sometimes called the hummingbird capital of the United States, where more species of the tiny, hyperactive little guy show up than almost anywhere else in the country. There's championship golf, miles of hiking, and clean, dry mountain air that just feels good in your lungs. The trade-off here is genuinely modest, which is exactly why it ranks this high. Tucson is about 75 miles away, so big city amenities take a bit of a drive, and the overall crime rate is a hair above average, even though the violent crime specifically is genuinely low. For cooler summers, real access to nature, and a very reasonable price tag, Sierra Vista is a quiet, underrated winner that almost nobody outside Arizona ever mentions. It's also worth mentioning that because of the military presence, the town has a diverse, welcoming, come-from-everywhere feel that a lot of tiny Arizona towns simply don't, which makes settling in and making friends noticeably easier. Number 6. Bisbee, oh Bisbee. If this list handed out an award for most interesting character, Bisbee would stroll up to collect it wearing a tie-dye shirt, quoting poetry at you and offering you homemade kombucha you didn't ask for. Here's the headline, and it is a big one. Bisbee has some of the cheapest homes in the entire state of Arizona. Depending on which source you check, the typical home value runs anywhere from the low 170s up to around $230,000. In a country where the average house now costs a small fortune and half your soul, that is not a typo. One financial outlet actually crunched all the numbers and named Bisbee the single most budget-friendly retirement pick in the whole state, pointing out that nearly 4 in 10 residents are already 65 or older, and that monthly living costs hover right around $3,000. So what exactly is this magical little bargain town? Bisbee is a former copper mining boomtown, perched dramatically at 300 feet up in the Mule Mountains. And when the mines finally shut down, the artists quietly moved in and never left. Today it's a quirky, deeply walkable little community of about 5,000 people, with a historic downtown packed with galleries, coffee shops, antique stores, and colorful Victorian houses stacked up the steep hillsides like they're all posing together for a postcard. That elevation gives it a mild, pleasant four-season climate that openly laughs at the brutal desert heat down below. Now the dry, honest truth, and it's a substantial one, so I'm just going to say it plainly and let it land. Bisbee is small, it is remote, and its healthcare and job options are limited. And those gorgeous character-filled historic homes stacked up the hillside, they come with staircases. So many staircases. Your legs will either become absolutely magnificent or they will formally stage a revolt around age 70. Bisbee is a genuine soulmate town for exactly the right retiree. And a long, winding commute to the doctor for the wrong one. Choose honestly. But when it's the right fit, there's truly nowhere else like it in Arizona. The whole town has a warm, artsy, everybody knows everybody energy, and the cost of living is low enough that a modest fixed income actually feels comfortable rather than stretched thin. We're now officially past the halfway point, which means the big crowd favorite names are coming up fast. If you've made it this deep into the video, you're clearly serious about this whole retirement thing, so go ahead and subscribe right now instead of pretending you'll do it later. We both know you won't. Let's keep climbing the list. All right, so here's where the list shifts gears, moving out of the hidden gems and into the heavy hitters. The places actual retirees have been quietly, steadily flocking to for literal decades. Number 5. Green Valley. About 25 miles south of Tucson, sitting in a wide open valley of pecan groves and rolling desert, is a place that is honestly less of a town and more of a beautifully organized retirement machine. Green Valley isn't just one neighborhood. It's a sprawling collection of roughly 130 separate developments, most of them age-restricted, and more than 75% of the people who live there are over the age of 65. This is a community built, from the ground up, brick by brick, around the single specific job of being retired and thoroughly enjoying it. Homes here run around $280,000, and the cost of living lands right about at the national average, which, for a purpose-built retirement haven absolutely loaded with this many amenities, is a genuine bargain. You get golf, obviously, plus a large central recreation center with fitness facilities and swimming pools, weekly farmers markets, and some of the flat-out best birding in the entire country. It sits at about 2,900 feet, so it runs a touch cooler than Tucson proper. And it's popular and well-regarded enough that Forbes recently named it to their best places to retire list. This is simply a town that works, quietly and reliably, for exactly the people it was designed for. The one honest note. Green Valley leans heavily on Tucson for its serious hospital care, so a major medical event means a drive of about half an hour to the north. But with Tucson sitting that close, and with everything else here this thoroughly dialed in, Green Valley is an easy, comfortable recommendation for the right person. And if you're the type who wants a busy social calendar in retirement rather than a quiet one, Green Valley delivers hard. There are clubs, classes, leagues, and events running practically every day of the week, so boredom is very much a choice here, not a sentence. Number 4. Tucson. Time for the sensible, practical grown-up of the list. There's a well-known financial publication that recently sat down, looked hard at every single city in Arizona, and came to a blunt conclusion. For a retiree living on a median income, Tucson is essentially the only one that truly makes cold, hard mathematical sense. That is a strong claim. And to its credit, Tucson mostly backs it right up. This is Arizona's second largest city, home to about 540,000 people, with homes averaging somewhere right around $300,000 and a cost of living that sits comfortably near the national average. But the real reason Tucson earns this exact spot on the list isn't the price at all. It's the healthcare. Tucson is home to a major academic medical center attached to the University of Arizona, along with other large hospitals, which means the serious specialist care that so many towns earlier on this list are quietly missing is right here, at a genuinely high level. And for a whole lot of retirees, that single fact is worth more than any golf course ever built. And it's not just a hospital with a city bolted onto the side of it, either. You get real, vibrant university town culture, restaurants, live music, museums, and Saguaro National Park sitting right there on the doorstep, where those giant, many-armed cactuses stand around in the sunset, looking like they're posing for tourists on purpose. At about 2,400 feet of elevation, it even runs a little cooler than Phoenix. And according to that same financial analysis, a couple living on 2 average Social Security checks needs only a fairly modest nest egg to comfortably cover Tucson's annual retirement budget. The desert heat is still very real, and some neighborhoods are pricier or a little dicier than others, so do your homework. But as an all-around, healthcare-forward, genuinely affordable city, Tucson is honestly hard to beat. It's also, frankly, the one city on this list where you never have to explain to your grandkids why there's nothing to do when they visit. Between the national park, the university scene, and a genuinely great local food culture, Tucson keeps everybody entertained, not just the retirees. Number 3. Sun City West. Now we officially enter Del Webb country. The sprawling empire of the purpose-built American retirement community, and Sun City West stands as one of its true crown jewels. Built between the late 1970s and the mid-1990s, way out in the West Valley of Phoenix, this is a strictly 55 and older community of nearly 17,000 homes, purpose-built from day one for people who have thoroughly earned the right to spend a random Tuesday afternoon out on a golf course. And there is golf. So much golf. Plus multiple recreation centers, well over 100 separate clubs for every hobby you can name, and several you absolutely can't, and an annual recreation fee that comes out to only around $500 for full access to the entire buffet of it. Homes run in the mid-360s, which is the priciest we've climbed to so far on this countdown, but understand what you're actually buying. A fully loaded, amenity-rich, wildly active adult lifestyle. And here is the specific detail that pushes it this far up the ranking. There's a full hospital, a major banner medical center, sitting right there on the very edge of the community. For a retiree, having serious, real health care that physically close is not a luxury. It's peace of mind you can practically walk to on a nice morning. The honest note here is refreshingly simple. It is still the desert, so the summers are unapologetically hot, and it is an age-restricted bubble by design, which some people absolutely adore and others find just a touch too beige and quiet for their taste. But the local market has softened noticeably in recent times, meaning buyers actually have real room to negotiate right now, and the low property and sales taxes keep the ongoing monthly costs delightfully, almost comically small. If what you want is the classic do-it-exactly-right, no-surprises Arizona retirement, this is very much it. Think of it as the retirement equivalent of an all-inclusive resort that you happen to own. Everything is walkable by golf cart, the neighbors are all in the same chapter of life, and the maintenance headaches of a big traditional house mostly disappear. Number 2. Prescott Valley. If everything about this list so far has quietly made you sweat, then this right here is your escape hatch. Prescott Valley sits way up at about 5,100 feet in the mountains of central Arizona, And at that kind of elevation, summer becomes a completely different animal entirely. We're talking pleasant, breezy, genuinely comfortable days while Phoenix bakes like a forgotten casserole an hour and a half to the south. There's real pine here. There's cooler, crisper air, and there's even the occasional gentle dusting of winter snow, which in Arizona basically counts as a rare and exotic weather event worth photographing. Homes in Prescott Valley run around $330,000, which is a genuine honest bargain when you consider what you're actually getting. Cooler, greener mountain living without the eye-watering price tag of the fancier, flashier towns right nearby. And it sits directly next to Prescott proper. A picture-perfect historic town with a famous old main drag, a walkable central square straight out of a movie, and a solid regional medical center that serves the entire surrounding area. So you get the affordability and the cooler climate of the valley, plus easy access to all that small-town charm and, critically, a real hospital sitting right next door. The trade-off, in the ongoing spirit of total honesty, is that this whole central Arizona area simply costs more than the southern desert towns we started this countdown with, and the local job market is thin if you're not already fully completely retired. But for anyone whose dream version of retirement involves reaching for a sweater in the evening instead of dodging a heat advisory, Prescott Valley is comfortably the smartest, cooler climate value in the entire state. Toss in 4 real, distinct seasons, endless hiking trails through the pines, and some of the friendliest small-town energy in Arizona, and you've got a retirement spot that feels more like a mountain getaway than a compromise. And that, at long last, brings us all the way to number 1. Number 1. Sun City. Of course it's Sun City. It had to be. This is the town that basically invented the entire concept of the American retirement community from scratch. When developer Del Webb first opened its doors back in 1960, thousands upon thousands of people literally lined up around the block on opening weekend, desperate to buy a home in a place designed, from the pavement up, entirely around retired life. It was a genuinely radical, brand new idea at the time, and it worked so spectacularly well that the entire industry spent the next 60 years copying it. Sun City is the original blueprint, and more than 6 decades later, it is somehow still the reigning affordability champion of this whole list. Here's the math that firmly lands it at number 1. Homes in Sun City average right around $285,000, and the condos start even lower than that, sometimes dipping all the way down into the low 200s. That is flat out remarkable for a place with this much genuinely packed into it. 8 full golf courses, 7 separate recreation centers, over 120 clubs, and instead of a punishing monthly homeowners association fee bleeding you dry, there's just a modest annual recreation charge of around $650 for the entire sprawling buffet of amenities. But the real, jaw-dropping showstopper here is the property taxes. Because of how Sun City was cleverly set up long ago, many homeowners here pay astonishingly, almost unbelievably little, often under $1,500 for the whole year, and plenty of condo owners pay even less than that. Remember that mysterious couple from the very start of this video, the one paying less in property tax than your gas station fill-up? They live somewhere just like this. And there's a major hospital right in the community too, so healthcare is genuinely close at hand. Now the fully honest close, because even number 1 gets the unvarnished truth on this channel. The housing stock is old. These are homes originally built back in the 1960s and 70s, and buying one often means budgeting carefully for updates and repairs somewhere down the road. Roofs, plumbing, wiring, the whole aging package. The air quality across the greater Phoenix area isn't exactly its finest selling feature, and it is a thoroughly car-dependent place with almost no walkability. But when you stack it all up together, the low price, the almost invisible taxes, the mountain of amenities, the on-site hospital, and the sheer, proven, decades-long track record of a community that has been quietly perfecting affordable retirement since before the moon landing. Honestly, nothing else on this entire list quite manages to match it. Sun City is number one, and it earned it the good old-fashioned way. 6 decades of retirees can't all be wrong, and the waiting lists prove they keep coming. So there you have it. 11 towns, running all the way from a quirky copper mining artist colony where the homes cost less than a decent truck, to the sunniest city on the entire planet, to the very first retirement community that started this whole idea rolling. The through line connecting all of them is the exact same one we opened with. Arizona quietly lets ordinary people retire on an ordinary budget as long as they know precisely where to look. The catch is always some version of a trade-off between the heat, the remoteness, and the healthcare. And the genuinely right town for you is simply the one where that particular trade-off feels like a completely fair deal. If this video saved you even one single late-night Zillow doom scroll, do me a favor and hit that like button so the next tired person who badly needs it can actually find it too. And subscribe for a brand new place to live, dream about, and mentally move to every single day. Now tell me down in the comments below, which of these 11 would you genuinely pack a moving truck for tomorrow? And, far more importantly, which one did I rank way too high? Be brutal about it. I can take it. Probably. See you in the next one, everybody.